This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
We are TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome to Phoenix Rising Radio. Now is the time to lift your mind higher. Now is the time to rise above. I am your host, Phoenix, and welcome to tonight's broadcast. Oh yeah, good evening and welcome everyone. This is Phoenix. I hope you're doing well. It is Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017. Oh man, what a weekend. What a time period since we were last on the air. The energetics and the things that have happened here in the United States and globally, but particularly here in the United States, since we were last on the air, are disheartening, to say the least. We're going to talk about a lot of these things, the current energetics of what's going on. Myself and Ney Sey, he's joining me live from the res tonight. Ney Sey, how you doing, brother?
I am doing well, a little bit under the a little bit under the weather, but I shall endure. Thank you.
Really? Everything okay? What's happening, man?
I did have my father's memorial this weekend in honoring my father's life with friends and family and that. And so I'm just thinking, a bunch of people, bunch of germs, shaking hands, hugs, sneezing, fall. It's flu time. Don't
think of it.
Get your shots.
Don't even go there. There are so many ways that people can protect themselves from this stuff, nutritionally and other ways. But we've touched upon it before. Is such a shame that some of the ways that people can protect themselves, we really can't say because it's such an issue. But there are herbal things, oregano oil, that's a good one. I'll say that right now. And no, it's not for medical uses, but I do know many people who are fond of the use of oregano oil, and it's very powerful when they begin to feel something, and they report to me, and this is no medical claim, they report to me that they feel much better afterwards and never come down with those afflictions. But anyway, yeah, it is that time. And I'm glad to hear that things went well. How many people were at the memorial, you say? Over 100?
Yeah, I would estimate that. Of course, visually impaired and stuff. It was what it was. But it was really good. A little surreal on it. It kind of hits home, and it's so bizarre and disheartening of the fact of when it occurred, and now with what just occurred in Vegas. because here I am at this memorial honoring my father's life and reflecting on it and going through the pain of loss. And then hear what occurs on Monday, and then imagining all of these people that are going through that same pain of that loss. And it's just, people are asking, how are you doing? And I'm like, I have nothing to compare it with. And so I'm doing what I am to deal with it. But how do you really prepare for the loss of a loved one?
I know.
And it's just that struggle, that challenge to try the, laughter, the best medicine, finding the silver lining, trying to remember all the joy and the memories, and then of course that Monday occurrence occurs, and right away, the minute I learned about it, my conspiracy bells started ringing, and the absolute no sense that this occurrence had was really making my bells ring, on it.
I'd like to interject something right here, though. We're talking about this, the loss, and we talk about the untimeliness of it. We've had so many bizarre things. Again, it was announced today, I guess it was actually yesterday, Tom Petty, the great artist, passed away. Tom Petty. And he's a favorite of mine and many of my friends. We just, he was great. And we're going to talk a little bit about that this evening. And we're going to talk about life and death tonight, because you know what? That's the topic. I hate to say it, but that's a topic. And dig this, dude. And you can relate to this very well, as our listeners can. It's autumn. The crunching of the leaves, the removal of chlorophyll from the leaves that reveal the beautiful reds and oranges and different colors, in areas with the trees that deciduous trees that turn, and the new cycle of life that happens. And it's the same with your father, with Tom Petty, and I will say even the persons who passed away on the 1st. This is a reality, people. But what we're going to talk about tonight is a little bit of everything, but also the reality of this passing. And dig this: you don't really die. You don't. Your physical vessel does. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and these energetics. It's almost like the old Star Wars movie, the original Star Wars, where Obi-Wan Kenobi is cut down by Darth Vader, and he says, "You, if you strike me down, I shall be stronger." And he was, dude. And your father's stronger, and people who passed on Monday are stronger, and all people are stronger because they've gone to a freedom energetic. But anyway, I just wanted to let everyone, kind of like think about that a little bit before they think, oh my God, this is going to be a bummer show. It's not a bummer. It's the truth. It's reality. It's the current events every day, and it has been for millennia.
Oh, absolutely. And please, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, hold me accountable for the truth that I'm sharing with you, because I would like to believe, that I've taken enough time to scrutinize and vet, or, just to check references and stuff, and that I'm sharing, the truth with you. And if you feel I'm not, give us a call, send me an email, and let's talk about it, because that's what's supposed to be done. Like discussions like we're having, like we're going to go through today, where we're discussing it in its entirety to try to look at it from different perspectives. Because when it comes down to it, we need to figure out how to go through it and keep our sanity.
Yeah, and I think we can keep our sanity in this by the realization of the true process. The physical body that you and I and all of our listeners carry, and Tom Petty, and all the victims of the recent tragedy there in Las Vegas, and all the victims every day, everywhere. That physical body is not your true existence. That physical body is no different than an automobile, like a car. If you drive a car and you like move this way, you can move that way, you can turn the lights on, you can play the music, you can honk the horn, beep, beep, beep. Everyone can say, hey, there he or she goes in their car. When you stop and park that car and turn the key off and there's no sound, there's no warmth from the engine, there's no oil surging through the valves and all that, and it can no longer play the music or honk the horn because it's there, and you get out. Does that mean you are dead? No, it means you turned your car off. It means the vehicle that you were transporting yourself around in is no longer of use to you. You've clicked the key off, or sometimes they just die. Transmission goes or whatever, the engine blows, and just because you blow a valve, kind of like Tom Petty did, cardiac arrest, and his head gasket blew. Does that mean Tom Petty's dead? No. His memory goes on, and his energetic is still very, very, very much alive. Just as you are very, very, very much alive when you get out of your automobile and you park it at night and it's cold. You go to a different plane of existence, and that is just an example, but it's a real example. The physical body that you dwell in, that I dwell in, that everyone dwells in, is nothing more than a vehicle in this existence, this physical existence we call it, in this reality that our true being and our energetic is transported in.
Well, I also like the metaphor of like a light bulb, or light in itself. You have the light and it's on, and then you flip the switch and it's gone. But it's not really gone, because the energy beyond that pushes that light to illuminate is still there. It's just not on. And that's kind of like the same that all of, it's just that we're all on right now. The switch has been turned on. The energy is there. We're animated, and we're experience this existence, and so why not experience it to its fullest, as long as we're here, I guess.
True. Very true. I agree 100%. Oh man, where do we even start? Where do you even begin?
Well, here's one.
Go ahead.
So when you first learned about it, Phoenix, what was your first reaction?
It was bizarre, because a friend of mine out in California he was awake during this time. And so it was like 3 a.m. for him or whatever. And so he was like sending me texts. I didn't even know. I got up in the morning. I'm like, what the heck? He tried to call me like 3 times. I'm like, why would my friend in California try to call me at 3:30 in the morning? And, I thought it was something bizarre. I thought it was something, pretty serious. And later on, I did check and saw him. Like, oh my God, now I see why, because he was awake during this time. And I saw this, I was kind of shocked. I'm like, shocked, but I wasn't, if you know what I mean. Shocked, but I wasn't.
Yeah, it definitely, because when I talked to you that afternoon, I slept in, because like I said, I was feeling a little under the weather, and half of Sunday I slept, and then I slept in on Monday, and then I woke up to all of these phone calls and messages, and then someone explained to me what happened, and it was this absolute numbness. And in the irony of it, I get people that come into my home that assist me with my daily living activities and stuff. And the gal that came in that morning, well, not early morning, but mid-morning, and she told me what happened. And she was in the best of moods. and she was, and by the time she left, she explained to me how she was just trying to hold on to that attitude of being in a good mood and continue that good mood, because in the psychological aspect of what occurred, we have this already Monday morning dread where people are like, oh, it's back to the grind. And we got fall that's coming on, where a lot of people with seasonal depression disorders. And, all of this accumulation of, news cycles, the distractions, occurred. And then you throw on top of this atrocity. And I can imagine how hard it is for some people, to continue on trying to find that silver lining, trying to find that little speck of light in darkness like this, So I had to give her props, because she was doing a pretty darn job keeping a positive attitude, with what's occurring.
Well, she has to, and we all have to. And you know what? God bless her. You know what you witnessed there, and you know this as well as I do, and maybe more than others. You witnessed a warrior. She may have a smile. She may be an apparently, very nice, soft, energetically person, just like a nice person with big smiles and all, but you witnessed a warrior, because the warrior spirit within us has to rise up and know this. And the warrior spirit in us becomes a warrior through knowledge and the acceptance of the realities of our life. There's some things we can't change, and this death transition that we make from the physical to the non-physical is a part of life, and I think a lot of it, like your helper that was there, this wonderful woman, this wonderful warrior woman, even if she doesn't know it herself, this realization that things aren't always as they seem. Now, like you were saying, I don't want to lose track here in my mind, but you're talking about a seasonal disorder. A lot of people get depressed as the seasons change. Dude, I don't know why, but I'm just the opposite. I love autumn. When autumn comes, I love it. When winter comes, I love it. When the skies are gray and it's rainy, I love it. I think it's beautiful. When they're beautiful and sunny and blue, I love it too. I see beauty in it all, and wisdom in it all, and peace in it all. Even in the darkness, even in the dark times, the sky, is illuminated with the stars, even in the darkest point of night. And when it's not visible, the clouds are like a blanket, and they're beautiful in themselves. I think a lot of it's perception and how we see these things. I think there are archonic or demonic forces that would have us perceive things in a negative way when they're actually not. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. And if you think of the whole dichotomy of everything, and we'll just label one spectrum love and the other spectrum fear, that it is power, it is energy. And just as much as, monks or gurus or priests or those that are making the prayer and the chants for goodness, there's people that are on the other spectrum where they're doing prayers and chants of fear. And if they can get you into that state of fear, then it's like them declaring winning. And the sad fact of the matter is sometimes it's a lot easier to fall into the trough of fear than to remain in a state of love.
Oh man, it's always easier to do that. And people get into it, and they find a comfort into it, and they find a camaraderie in it. I think what's lacking is the camaraderie of love and the power of love, and because there's a huge camaraderie of mocking, of negativity. The phenomenon of comedians, modern comedians, that are really like lifted up through the media, television, primarily television. And these comedians and these comedic shows they have such a negative thing. It's so sarcastic. They make light of people, they make fun of people, and they can socially mold people's minds. And it's really bizarre what they do with the television, but that energetic that they put out there of negativity, people kind of click with it, associate with it. It's almost like a club, this club of negativity and sarcasm and hatred, and people laugh at it. They've trained people that if you make fun of someone or someone's weaker than you, they're no good, and you can laugh at them. They're like comedy material. But and also that if you make fun of someone, or if you are sarcastic to someone, that you're funny, you're sexy, you're likable. And that's the psychology they put out. And that shows you the demonic power and the archonic powers that are behind the media. It really does, dude. It's subtle, but so powerful.
Well, even taking a look at if you break it down in percentages with media of critical thinking, that I would say that more of it would seem on that darker realm than on the, as we talk about the dichotomy of fear and love, that it's more fear, whether it be, I would lump violence in with fear, and anger and that with fear, but it does seem more times than not that the media in general is on that fear base and minuscule on the love base.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's really pushed it. Looking at my own life, from when I was younger, when I was a child, being observant of watching the news and all this and watching this whole thing change, man, what a change. Project Mockingbird of the CIA, man, it's so successful. And they are in there deep, and the agenda they're pushing, and for the souls of people. I used to think it was just the minds. This is the souls, man. They want people to be dark. They want people to be negative. And dude, I've seen this so many times. Something will happen, and you will see people react. Their first impression will be like a really negative thing. It's like, well, that's not exactly the way it is. But what this is, the energetic that they're portraying or putting out, it's a trained energetic that has happened for years. And there are people out there right now that have these really, really sarcastic and negative energetics and this kind of snarky sense of humor. I mean, you go into a crowd of people, man, it's just like, wow, excuse my language, and I hope that we don't have problems here on TFR. I'm sure we won't, because of the other things that have been said, but people are smart asses. I mean, they're just flat out smart asses, man. And it's like, really, you and they do it, and like, ha ha ha, everybody laughs. It's like, that's not funny. You're being extremely rude to this person, or saying something extremely sarcastic, but everybody laughs. Tee hee 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 hee. Dude, when I was young, nobody laughed at that. People were like, what? People were like shocked at it. But because of the media, because of television, because of sitcoms, these comedian things where they interject laughter with it, that's how they trick people into this energetic that these very negative things are acceptable. They're funny. If you're like that, you react that way. People laugh at you. They think you're cool.
Do you think we could get a laugh track, Phoenix?
Oh, man. I'm not good at at all. I tell you what, I was on the lake before the show, and she's like, oh, you got to do some Tom Petty music. I'm like, oh, last time we tried to do music, it was a problem. I don't know. We had some problems with our overlays, but yeah, we could get a laugh track, I guess, and we could do good things like, "Hey, man, that's a really strong person." Ha 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 ha. Ha. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I wouldn't.
Well,
Sarcastic view.
I just bring that up to. I bring that up because I recall the start of the laugh track, and as somebody who does do comedy, I think a little bit differently that when I'm doing open mic comedy and you and the audience are coming to witness it, there's no political correctness in comedy, but it also comes down to intent, because like if you're intentionally trying to insult somebody in that, then I agree with you. It's not right. But to laugh at oneself and to laugh at some of the stereotypes that we have of each other, then it's all in jest and stuff. But I agree with the sitcoms. I remember watching the Tracy Ullman show and the first time watching Simpsons. And it was all crudely drawn and everything. And the whole storyline was the quintessential dysfunctional family. But it was drawn in cartoon style, and it was almost like this Fox television network was the creation for this purpose of desensitizing us.
I agree. Dude, we'll talk more about that on all these topics when we return from this break. Don't go away, everyone. I know you're dying to hear this.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
You're listening to Truth Frequency Radio.
We are TFR.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
What's going down? What's going up, left, right, back, and forth, and right there where they all connect within yourself. So things are going on and on and on, just as we are here at Phoenix Rising, where you're rolling with the best of us, not just myself, but Mr. Phoenix. And thank you all for listening, and a quick shout out to the chat room. Chat room!
Indeed, yeah. All of us hoping for the best and trying to do our best. Everyone is. Man, what a freaky, just amazing thing that we're dealing with here. And I believe it's going to intensify. We're going to talk a little bit tonight about some of these stats and a little tribute to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Tom Petty, just amazing. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But, in the United States, and some of our international listeners are very aware of this. We get just like this tunnel vision. I will guarantee you there's a place outside of the continental United States. It's called the world. And the world suffers. The world is going through this. Can you imagine the pain, the suffering, the death that has occurred in Syria? The pain, the suffering, the death that has occurred in Iraq. The pain, the suffering, and the death that has occurred in Afghanistan. This is the way of the world, is continuing on. It will continue for some time. Things will change. Things will change at some point. There will be a very major energetic change that comes. We won't get into that this evening, but it is coming. I'll guarantee you it's coming. And things will go into a little different way of vibrating, if you will. But, you know, the things that we're witnessing here, the things that we've seen just in the past few days are shocking to a lot of people. They're using this, and when I say they, I speak about the few who control the many. They use this energetically through what NeSe and I were talking about before, through the media manipulation, but the political manipulation to the news and all this. They tug on people's emotions, and they're getting sloppy with this. I mean, Hillary Clinton came out, and her and Biden and a few other people, they made like these political comments about this tragedy that happened. Hey, Hillary. Hey, Joe Biden, guess what? I don't give a damn about what laws you want changed. People died. Yes, I'm saying that they're energetically, they continue on, but the suffering and the sorrow that happens, like NeSe just experienced with his father, like I've experienced with my father, like a lot of people, most people listening have experienced with the loss of a loved one. That's there. It's very real. It's very intense. And dude, dig this. I was thinking about this. I think I kind of lost my train of thought before the break there, but I wanted to point out was this series. We're going through like a crescendo of energetic things, dude. We had Hurricane Harvey that hit Texas and the devastation there, the loss of life. More than that was reported, by the way, and all the problems there. Then we had the Hurricane Irma that ripped up through Florida and all different areas, through the islands, the death that was created. Then we had Hurricane Maria come right up behind it. And then we had this. I mean, dude, look at the president of the United States. He's had to go to Houston, and he got criticized for that. Then he had to go to Florida. He got criticized for that. Now I had to go to Puerto Rico. He's being criticized for that. The next one is he's going to be tomorrow, I believe, in Las Vegas, dealing with this massive loss of life. Dude, I don't think I've ever seen such a crescendo of very serious things happening in this country, in my life. And some people would say it's prophetic. This is the end of days. This is the beginning, kind of like apocalyptic type of rumblings that we're experiencing. What say you?
Well, now we just came through a cycle or a phase of a grand cycle that we call the equinox, when it was equal day and equal night. Now, we know through experience of the cycle, we are heading towards the winter solstice, which means in the northern hemisphere, it is going longer nights. So the darkness is growing. So just as in nature, just in the experience of this world that we're all part of, things go through this cycle. If we think of a clock and we think of 12 being all positive and 3 being neutral and 6 being negative and 9 being equal again, we go through the swings, and sometimes that swing will be it might be a week that you go through this feeling of balance and then dismay and then balance again and then everything's great, or like the season of the year where we're going into the darkness in the northern hemisphere. But just as we talk about dichotomy and opposites, remember that in the southern hemisphere, they're going through a time of greater light. And then there's parts of the world where the day is sunny and no one has faced death and everything is going well. And there's other parts of the world, Syria, the reservations, Las Vegas, so it is all of these cycles within the cycles, but where are we being pointed towards or what are we being directed to focus on? So here we have the media. And I've talked about this before, like on most phones now have this app, this weather app. And so on the weather app, they have their hometown and then the surrounding weather. Well, if they see these storm fronts coming in or these bad weather coming in, all of a sudden they look at the bad weather and they look at their hometown, look at the bad weather and look at the hometown. And in a sense, they're actually drawing it to themselves. And this goes with what me and Phoenix talk about a lot of times. Don't get wrapped up into the fear. Don't get wrapped up into the negativity, because these entities that thrive off of fear want you to be there, because that just creates them more power. But not only that, the more we are down and in despair and saddened, the less likely we are to move forward in a prosperous way on all accounts of our being.
That's true. I agree with that 100%. And you have brought that up before about the energetic of the Weather Channel and all these things, all these apps, and people are like, oh no, they see it. And see, that's the thing. And here's the reality of that. What they're doing, the powers that be, are using the fear factor in people, because it goes the other way when people think the other way. Art Bell, famous late night radio guy. I've listened to many hours of Art Bell. Loved him so much. Yeah, he's got a lot of negativity and things that have gone against him, and a lot of people saying, some bad things about him. But you'll have that. People say bad things about me. People say bad things about NeSe.
What?
Well, yeah, they do. Yeah.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Dude, that is so correct. Oh my God. Yeah, if you said that. Anyway, we wouldn't even go there. But what I'm saying is he did an experiment. It's a famous experiment where there was some huge weather things happening, and he had his audience consciously think about changing the weather patterns, and it happened. And he did this multiple times. And I think what freaked him out, because it was like a drought type situation somewhere. And what he did was he put forward that everyone would concentrate on reversing that drought and concentrating on rain, and a flood happened. And it totally freaked him out. He's like, we're not going to do this anymore. And he refused to talk about it. But he proved, without a shadow of a doubt, that the human collective, the consciousness of human minds can do these things. And that's why they want the fear out there, because they want people to be fearful. They want people to instantly think the worst. Okay? They want people, they look at a situation, because what happens, they say, is we're presented with these visuals. These visual stimuli and, audible stimuli come at us. And we react to these in different ways. And they are training people to react to these in a negative way. They want people to be fearful. They want people to not think the positive, because they know that people, when they're thinking positive and they reject the fearful, they can change things. They can change it. And they don't want people to know that or to do that.
Oh, absolutely. If you think of their grand scheme of it, lately I've been doing a lot of research about his story and history, and I'm learning all of this new stuff that is blowing me away. And I got to give props to the internet, because even as it is taking my moments to do this research and stuff like that, it is just validating a lot of my true thoughts, of what is the powers that should not be game plan or their end result. And in this conclusion, the end result is for them to maintain the power and get more. and under any means necessary.
Any means necessary. By any means necessary, yeah. You know what? That makes me think about the Antifa movement. They still have something coming up. They're saying November 4th. Dude, I think they're going to go for it, and they're going to do something crazy. They've tried to tag this Las Vegas thing in so many different ways, and it doesn't fit. And I want to say this. I just want to interject this to everybody, that not everything is a conspiracy. And not everything is a false flag. Not everything is some government op. You know, I don't know. I mean, none of it makes sense with this guy. You know, he was, how old was this dude? He was like in his
68, I think it was.
Yeah, 68 years old.
Or 62.
Yeah, let me
I'm
bring
sorry.
this up.
But he was an accountant. He was well off.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, as per usual, an utter surprise, you know, but, or go ahead, Phoenix, and then I'll add to what you were going to make your point with.
Stephen Paddock, 64, of Mesquite, Nevada. And see, here's the thing. From what I have put together, I don't put a lot of energy into all of this because I like stay away from it. The dude was a multimillionaire. He owned 3 homes. And when I say homes, I don't mean like shanties. I mean nice homes. And, you know, he had worked for NASA. He was a government contractor, all this. And something snapped here. Something weird's going on. I do know that he and his wife had traveled to Saudi Arabia. You don't hear that a lot in the news. And we've heard all kinds of conflicting reports, you know. Antifa claimed that he was one of theirs. They retracted that. ISIS claimed he was one of theirs, but these guys want all claim for anything destructive. And the fact that he attacked a country western music festival, which are traditionally, you know, very conservative people. As a matter of fact, did you guys see that a CBS vice president of some of the legal team got fired because this woman actually said she had no sympathy for all the dead in Las Vegas because they were probably all Republicans, because Republicans and conservatives like country western music, so she has no sympathy for the dead. She was fired within hours, dude. They dropped her. CBS dropped her like a hot potato, man.
Well, you know, I was thinking of this in the aspect of the Democrats. The Democrats traditionally are whole, you know, gun control, you know, they're hardcore gun control and stuff like that. Now, the weapon that this man used to shoot the people was an illegal weapon. So it had nothing to do with gun control laws at all. It was illegally purchased or found.
Oh, absolutely not. From what they're saying, dude, that he legally purchased these and then he converted them potentially. The whole story hasn't come out, but let me tell you the narrative they're going for. This is my take on this, NeSe. Because they always have an agenda behind this, and here's the agenda. Here's the agenda. That a professional, well-to-do white guy in his, you know, late 50s, early 60s is very dangerous. And even if, because one of his neighbors came on to Michael Savage show, I guess, and, you know, they've removed it. I don't know if she was a neighbor or not, but, you know, they're trying to put this forward as he was just like the nicest guy. He would never do this. And what they're doing with this narrative, if they are making it so people of that age, white males, even if they don't have military training or anything, are potentially deadly killers. That way, they could literally, if they get this narrative out there into the minds of the people, the sheeple, the people who believe anything they say, that way they could literally go to anybody's house who's, you know, around that age, even successful, and has presented themselves as the nicest person in the community. Oh, he buys his mother walkers. They give her cookies. He's wealthy. He's a nice guy. He would never do anything like that. They kick in his door with a SWAT team and kill him. They can say, he was just like this guy. That's what they're doing. They're setting this up so that anyone who would appear to be innocent could be portrayed as someone deadly to the community.
Okay, so then now on the dichotomy, we have the Republicans. The Republicans and their stance about, well, if more people had guns, this would have been taken care of. But the guy was on the 32nd floor. So, unless you were having a rifle, there was nothing you could do about it. Now, this gentleman, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's absolutely. You're going right on the right narrative, because all these other mass shootings, they came back with, well, if the teachers were armed or if this person was armed, it wouldn't have happened. Now they've created a narrative that being armed wouldn't suffice, because I've thought about this. I looked at the whole thing. I'm like, yeah, that's a tough one, man, because number one, you don't know where he's firing from. You don't know, if you can even get there. I mean, that's a tough one. So, yeah, even the narrative of if everyone was armed doesn't fit in this one, because no one would have been able to protect themselves.
So now we have this accountant that bought 2 rooms side by side, and allegedly the number right now is he had 10 guns, but only 1 gun was utilized.
Oh, I heard it was a 10. I thought it was 16 in his room. On 10.
Okay, well, maybe they've jumped it up more now.
Oh, it was 10 suitcases, 16 firearms, and long rifles, and 1 handgun, I believe.
Okay, so then now he got in the crazy phrase of terrorist and stuff in Vegas. And if you have been to Vegas, there are cops everywhere in Vegas. And there is security like you wouldn't believe in Vegas. So this guy, this well-to-do guy, was able to bring all of these weapons up into this room. Now, from the one audio clips that I've heard, that and from those audio clips and from people that I know that are gun enthusiasts, they have said that there was no way with the mock modifications that you can do on the alleged gun this gentleman had, could he be doing the velocity and the amount of rounds that he did, and with a change, and to start firing again. The gentleman that I was talking about, he claimed that he had to have a foot locker.
Well, he had a lot of stuff. He fired for quite a few minutes. From what I'm hearing, that he probably modified the sear in such a way when slam fire, because if you listen to the tapes, it's like a whole mag dump every time he just pulls the trigger. And a lot of people, they came back like, oh, there's no way this could be like real. It couldn't be him. He's untrained, and so many people were killed. But people have to realize he was like up high. He was shooting into a crowd. Think of a concert, 30,000 people shoulder to shoulder. You don't even have to aim.
What is that, shooting fish in a barrel?
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, and this is the biggest thing of where, in my perspective of it is so unfathomable, it's so bizarre, it's so unnatural that it's going to give us weeks of trying to figure this out. Because as long as we're spending all of this time trying to figure out why it occurred, instead of just accepting that it occurred, it's a horrific thing, what are we about to miss?
Exactly. Oh, dude, let me go through some scenarios that I'm thinking. Again, I talked about all the natural disasters that we here in the United States, continental United States, have just dealt with. Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma, and then Hurricane Maria, and up all through all the islands, and now this mass shooting. This is like a crescendo of events, and I think we're going to see more. And here's some things that a question I have for people, and I think this is what we're going to see with this shooter. And let me jog everybody's memory. Earlier this year, not long ago, we had a mass shooting at a baseball diamond in Washington, D.C., where a liberal person came up who was like a fan of Rachel Maddow and all that, came to kill Republican congressmen and shot up all of these congressmen, killed people, shot people. Question is, whatever happened with that guy? Where's his information? How come they're not talking about that? Fast forward. Let's go to the next one. Let's go to the person who rammed his car into a group of liberal protesters in Carolina and killed a young girl and allegedly was a neo-Nazi. What happened with that? How come nobody's talking about that dude? What about his history? Who is he? How is that not newsworthy? Both of these incidents, the shooter in Washington, D.C., the guy who drove his car into these innocent people in Carolina, are these not both newsworthy things? And should we not, as the public, know who these individuals were, their psychological motivation of this, their political leaning of this? Should we not know this? We should. We should. But I'm telling you, just like with Hurricane Harvey, Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Maria, and now you want to call it Hurricane Vegas with this crazy guy who did this. Is this stuff, or some of these shootings and these murders, MK Ultra, mind control? Very, very possible they are, especially with this guy. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But I'm saying what's happening is we are being flooded energetically with these disasters, one after the other, mass murders. I've never seen anything like this in my life, dude. I mean,
it's like we're up against the ropes.
Yeah, dude. And people are saying this is apocalyptic. This is the energetics of the end time. And it could be. You know what we're missing next is a major earthquake. California, boom. And they've been preloading people with that too. They preload people's emotions. A friend of mine from California, he said, man, there's like hitting us all the time. The big one's ready and this and that. And they've got people in such fear of major earthquakes out there. I think we're going to see a major like either in California, the New Madrid or something like that, and then maybe some warfare, because also we got the fear factor they're pushing of North Korea, that nonsense.
And this is all speculation now, what we're going into now. I would not be surprised if something occurred in Oregon, or Washington, because of the, usually in past occurrences, before the incident, they kind of shine a little bit of light. And here's an example. The earlier bombing at the World Trade Center that was hindered, and it was minimal. But it directed all eyes on the World Trade Center for what eventually was 9/11.
Oh, yeah.
So where do we look at back in history where they've been crescendoing? My biggest fear, this is total speculation, assumption and stuff, and my biggest fear is that Fargo, across the river from me, is going to be the next target for a false flag. Because as I was just talking about, where have they been pushing the focus? Look at over the last 10 years of how much North Dakota has been pushed in our face.
Roll up on a break, everyone. Tell me what.
Truth Frequency Radio is your...
You are now tuned into the Truth Frequency.
We are TFR. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome to Phoenix Rising Radio. Now is the time to lift your mind higher. Now is the time to rise above. I am your host, Phoenix, and welcome to tonight's broadcast.
And welcome back to the second hour of Phoenix Rising Radio right here on Truth Frequency Radio, where truth is premier. Hope you're a supporter of the truth. If not, go over to truthfrequencyradio.com. Go to Phoenix Rising Radio listener page. Find out how you can support truth and the great truth. We're talking about tragedies, myself and Ney Sey tonight. And one of those tragedies, Tom Petty, rock icon, dead at 66. Unbelievable. I'm looking at Rolling Stone magazine right here. Tom Petty, the dynamic and iconoclastic frontman who led the band The Heartbreakers. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers died Monday. He was 66 years old. Tom Petty's death was confirmed by the manager of the Heartbreakers on behalf of the family. What a shame. A bizarre thing about this is that his death was reported earlier. It was actually reported on Saturday. It was a hoax, and his manager had to come out and claim that it was a hoax, and the next day Tom Petty was found in cardiac arrest. And not only that, Ney Sey, but the singer who was on stage in Las Vegas during the shooting, the country western singer, I don't have his name right here in front of me, he was also reported as dead on Saturday also. And it was claimed to be a hoax on Sunday. And then the next day that shooting happened. So some odd things going on. Now, I will get into in a moment the Oracle Report, which is Laura Walker of the Oracle Report. And I hope our listeners are all signed up for that. You can go to theoraclereport.com and get the details on that. She actually put out a thing today on the Oracle Report, Tuesday, October 3rd, about Tom Petty. And if you can go over there, you can actually see a picture of Tom Petty standing on the stage that was taken by Laura Walker of the Oracle Report herself. She actually took the photograph in Colorado. She was there as Tom honored Red Rock. And she has some very interesting things to say about Tom Petty. I may read that whole report here in a moment, just so people know the energetic of this. But, dude, what do you think about all this? Were you a fan of Tom Petty?
You better watch what you say. You better watch what you do to me. Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, boy. Remember, put a little love. It's hard to find. Oh, yeah. I totally remember Tom Petty, especially when he did that Mad Max song. He was like one of the first icons on MTV. But yeah, I remember he would sit on the side of the road in that Mad Max beat up leather coat and playing the guitar. Yeah, I was a big fan. Actually, I did feel a little guilty that I felt a lot more sadness. I felt, because I heard of Tom Petty before I heard about the Vegas thing. And that actually really bummed me out. And I've been playing the best of Tom Petty for the last 2 days.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Yeah, it's something interesting going on. Hang on here. I'm going to right now, just for all of our listeners, read the Oracle Report today. And again, if you go over to theoraclereport.com, you will see this, and you will see a picture of Tom Petty again, right on stage there. And right behind him is the drum set, the Heartbreakers. And it says, photograph taken by me, that would be Laura Walker of the Oracle Report, May 30th, 2017 at Red Rocks in Colorado. And Tom honors the Red Rock. Now, just for the continuity of all this, I'm going to read the entire Oracle report for today, Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017. Gibbous moon phase is trust, moon in Pisces, sun, 11 Libra, which is a professor peering over his glasses at his students. True alignments for this is shifting focus, tapping into intuition, hard work that is rewarding, growth, new knowledge, adapting to changing scenarios, having different approaches to different things, catalyst for change, abusing the natural order of things, acting prematurely, comparisons to others or comparing things that are not comparable, and thus not seeing the individual uniqueness and value. Earth was at 11 Aries today, the ruler of a nation. And the true alignments of this are leadership, leading oneself, taking charge, ethics, willpower, the truth or core of something, accomplishing task, catalyst for change, power and control issues, bossy, abuse of power, domineering, tyranny. Then she writes this. She says, if you have followed the Oracle report for any length of time, you probably know of my affinity for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Tom Petty was the masculine embodiment of the archetypal energy of the planet Eris, with Neptune, Mercury, and Venus in opposition to the Eris point via Libra, Pluto trine the Eris point via Leo, and Mars and Chiron trine the Eris point via Sagittarius. He was here as a rebel against the forces of opposition with his stellar skill of words, music, and leadership. He never backed down. He fought against the cabal for the rights of musicians and won. One day, when the time is right, she says, I will tell the story of how I came to take today's photo and how it featured in an assignment I was given by the wisdom goddess. The assessment was not only made possible by divine intervention and the love and generosity of a wise owl. The power of Tom Petty will now begin to fully reveal itself. Now, this is me saying this, Phoenix. I think that's interesting. She says, again, quote, Laura Walker of the Oracle Report of today's Oracle Report. She says, quote, the power of Tom Petty will now begin to fully reveal itself. Then she goes on to say, if you are interested in learning more about the Eris archetype in its masculine form, something little understood, the documentary on Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers by Peter Bogdanovich, entitled Running Down a Dream, is currently on Netflix and is excellent. I don't have Netflix myself, but anyway, I just wanted to read that because she specifically spoke about Tom Petty today and this entire energetic. What do you think of that, bro?
Will you please forgive me, but all that comes to mind is, may the power of Tom Petty compel you.
Yeah. Seriously, the songs, the energetic, there was something going on there. And again, we talk about release and all of this. You know, yeah, he passed away. He's no longer in this existence. And as a songwriter and a musician, he has some incredible lyrics and music to listen to. And listening to Tom Petty over the last couple of days has, brought me back to not only a time of when I was younger and thinking that the world wasn't, when you were more carefree, when you were younger, back in the MTV days and stuff. And so it's true. Tom Petty has
in a sense, helped me through, what I'm dealing with my father, what I'm now dealing with, the Vegas thing, with what we're all dealing with, this world.
Yeah. It is amazing. His music was really cool. One interesting thing, you were talking about back in MTV days of Tom Petty. I mean, I remember that so well. And back when they actually, believe it or not, a lot of people won't realize this, but MTV used to be all music all the time. There were no television shows. There were no reality things, no politically motivated things. It was all music. It was like a jukebox. It was like the radio, but with a visual aspect to it and nothing else. They did a little bit of the news. They started the MTV News, but it was just news. But back in the day, MTV, when it started, and I had it right at the beginning. I mean, I remember when they were still playing the Bangles and, radio killed the video killed the radio song, all that.
Oh, yes.
Like, I used to have it on. I saw it. And people don't realize that now. I, from what I understand, they don't even play music anymore. I don't know what they are now. But, Tom Petty was big on that. One thing about Tom Petty that's pretty cool, he was in a movie that wasn't that popular. It was called The Postman, Kevin Costner. And Tom Petty played Tom Petty. He was actually Tom Petty in the movie. It's post-apocalyptic, if you will. It was post whenever the SHIT, is that right?
I think excrement would work.
Yeah, SHTF, that's it. And anyway, Tom Petty was there. He was like hanging out. He was Kevin Costner person. He became the postman. If you're not familiar with the movie, it's a really good movie, even though it got really, really bad reviews. And I think that has to do probably with Kevin Costner's political views, is why they got such bad reviews. That's just my take on this. But Tom Petty was in that as Tom Petty. And I never will forget the thing about Kevin Costner is like, dude, he goes, famous. And Tom Petty said, no, I'm not. He goes, you're famous. And it's talking about the postman. But, there's some type of energetic there that continues on. And so, like Lord Walker was saying here in the Oracle report, I think we're going to see something greater from this. And perhaps somehow that there's going to be some type of iconic thing happening with his music. Perhaps it'll become something major, an iconic type of clarion call, some of it in the future. What it could be specifically right now, I do not know.
Well, it wouldn't hurt anyone in the audience to, whether they got, Shazam, Pandora, iTunes Radio, or even YouTube, do a Tom Petty playlist, put it on shuffle, check out his music, and maybe it will touch you in a way that will help you go through what you're going through at this time. I'm sorry, this illusion.
The solution.
Yeah, I'm trying to refrain from using the word illusion instead of time, or vice versa.
It's been kind of weird for a lot of people. The whole thing of time, that's wow, that's a top.
But can we go back in time a little bit about the Vegas shooting and Tom Petty and what's going on? Excuse me, and my nose is just starting to run a little bit extra, and I apologize to the audience about that. But one challenge that I do have with the Vegas horrificness of the Vegas occurrence is that they claim this is one of the largest massacres or murders in history. But I would just like to bring up the Wounded Knee massacre where it was elders and women and children that the U.S. cavalry came in and slaughtered a bunch of people, a lot more. And I'm not trying to diminish or dismiss these lives that have been lost, but for them to come out and say that this is, in U.S. history, I would have to argue against. And as we were talking about earlier, Phoenix, and I did not find the date on that. I apologize, but we were talking about when the veterans all gathered in shanty towns in Washington, D.C., and the National Guards or the military were called to clear them out. And there was death occurrence there.
Exactly. Again, not to minimize any of this, but this is how the few control the many. And the narrative, like, oh, this is so horrific, we must change all the laws, we must do this, we must do that. Really? Well, the governments themselves, the people, the Hillary Clintons, the Joe Bidens, these people of this ilk, this energetic of this government control entity, if you will, they've been doing this. Like Ney Sey was just saying, Wounded Knee. Oh my God, Wounded Knee. It was a massacre, if you're not familiar with this, happened in 1890. I've got my notes here. And the Wounded Knee Massacre, the Battle of Wounded Knee, were the United States Cavalry, which was horse soldiers of the United States military, on December 29th, 1890, went to disarm. They went to take their weapons confiscation, right? Because they're dangerous. Guns are bad. So they went to disarm the Lakota Native Americans. And what was the result? More than 150 men, women, and children of the Lakota were killed. They were massacred. And 51 were wounded. 4 men, 47 women, and children. You'll notice that only 4 men were wounded and 47 women and children. And the reason there was only 4 men wounded is because they were counted amongst the 150 because they stood and fought. Okay? That's why they have to change. If you look at this Las Vegas thing, they say the worst gun massacre in modern history. They say that because people called them on that. They started saying this is the worst massacre of firearms in American history, and people promptly corrected them, said, I don't think so. There have been worse gun massacres of United States civilians in our history, and it was done by the. So again, there were, and again, so people know this, 1890, and I don't care how long ago it was, it's still 150 men, women, and children gunned down, not by some psycho hanging out of a hotel window with a gun that he had modified. No, by the United States military, this happened.
Well, and to add a little bit to that, when I was discussing with some people about this Vegas occurrence, and, you have your skeptics and, take everything with a grain of salt, do your own research. And somebody came to me and they were like, the government wouldn't do such a thing. And I reminded them that here I am, disabled, blind, confined to a wheelchair with limited dexterity because of experimental inoculations that were knowingly given to me. And there's an estimated, not my numbers, I say 900,000 veterans, but the numbers that the government give out is 700,000 veterans that are claiming to live with this Gulf War illness/syndrome. And so if they're willing to use the men that swear an oath to uphold the Constitution and protect the citizens and the American way of life, do you think they really care about the common, what do they call them, goyim, or sheeple or worthless eaters.
True. You know, the same thing you brought up about the Bonus Army. It was called. This was after World War II. Bonus Army was a popular name for an assemblages of 43,000 marchers. And 17,000 of them were U.S. World War I veterans and their families and different groups. They gathered in Washington, D.C. in the summer of 32, and they were demanding cash payment redemption of their service certificates. Because what happens, well, they were supposed to have like some kind of bonus, and they didn't do it. And so the Attorney General of the United States at that time was William Mitchell, ordered the veterans removed from all government property. And they went in, they sent the military in. They burned their villages. They tore things up. They harmed people greatly. They wounded people. There were only, the listing, and again, this was a long time ago, before there was media and alternative media, but they were only saying 3 people were killed. There are witness accounts that saying dozens were killed. But they went in with the military and killed military veterans and their families.
Yeah, so the atrocities have occurred. Unfortunately, they more likely will continue to occur. Of course, unless everybody's willing to jump on the highway with me, and we can roll to Washington disease.
We can all jump on the highway and we can all roll to Washington, but we don't have to get on the actual physical highways, and we don't actually have to roll like NeSe has to roll. We can roll to get energetically and take the higher road. That's what we can do. Say no to fear. Say no to this nonsense. Don't get caught up in this narrative. Because that's what they want. They want to identify you. They want you to be the nail that's sticking up. Now, I'm not saying being cowardly. I'm saying being smart. You know, be as wise as a serpent, but as harmless as a dove. There's an energy that's breaking forth right now that'll be used in this upcoming battle, if you will. And it is. It's a spiritual battle. It's an energetic battle. But it's all, guns. It really...
Well, sorry. But, like the Standing Rock occurrence, that, with the pipelines and stuff like that, they were having people come in there and they were talking about like, okay, if you want to protest this way and those that want to be arrested, protest this way, and this is what you should do and stuff. And so they were encouraging people to get arrested. But the thing is that when you go and protest and when you get arrested, then you're in jail. And while you're in jail, you're not able to do anything except be in jail. And not only are you there in jail, but then you have to start bringing up the legal funds to pay for your little holiday in jail. And so the system is winning anyway because you have to pay and play to get yourself out of jail.
Oh, my God. Dude, you remember the thing that happened? It was a state park or something. Bundy's, they're involved. They went in, and Cliven Bundy was killed. Was shot. Was it? No, who? Not Cliven Bundy. Who was it? Who was murdered? Shot. Was
when they were surrounded in the van?
Yeah, was that Cliven Bundy?
It was someone with that whole. Oh, come on now, Kevin. When I yell at myself, I use my Christian name.
The fact you remember right now is a shame because he exited the vehicle with his hands up and they shot him and they killed him. Oh my God!
Right, and he sacrificed himself because there were people in the vehicle that were wounded because they opened fire on the vehicle.
Yes.
And so he went to turn himself in, raised his hands, and if I recall properly, he's yelling out, "I'm unarmed, I'm coming out." And he came out with his hands up, and they shot him.
Lucky. FR just gave us a hint on that. And thank you, Lucky, very much for that. And that was Lavoy Finicum Lavoy Finicum, and she says exactly, Ney Sey. She gave the heads up on that, but yeah, Lavoy Finicum, and he was killed, he was murdered, and what Ney Sey's saying about these people who say, "Oh, do this and do that," the people who were involved in that entire situation, Lavoy Finicum, God rest him, God rest his soul, and he was a true American patriot. The people who were involved in that entire situation are still in prison.
We'll be right back.
We are TFR.
My faith in destiny is all I need to prevail.
Truth Frequency Radio.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
I know that you know that we know that I know that you know that we know that I am here/here with universe. And Phoenix, wondering what is Ney Sey doing during the break?
Ney Sey is eating. Dude, every time we get a break, you're like, nom, 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 buffalo. I'm like, oh my God, if you're a buffalo, don't go near Ney Sey's res. You are dead meat. I mean, that's what's happened in the past always.
Do you like bison jerky, Phoenix?
Man, dude, I love bison. One of my favorite restaurants had bison burgers, and we have a local place here that raises and grows bison. Bison, if people don't know, is one of the healthiest meats you can eat. It is very good for you, and I love bison. I think it's great. Jerky, steak, roast, you name it, bison burgers. I love it all.
Okay, so here is Ney Sey, his quick little hot dish. If those of you that don't know what a hot dish is, it's just what it sounds like. It's a dish that's served hot that just kind of has this, that, and the other thing to it. But the simplest hot dish, that is my newfound creation that I will share with you. 1 cup of wild rice, 1 pound of bison, ground bison, 1 bag of garden blend vegetables, 1 jar of Alfredo sauce, and 1 can of cream of mushroom soup. And you brown the bison, you cook your rice, then you throw it all together on a low simmer and let it simmer until the desired heat, and add a smidgen of pink Himalayan salt and some crushed pepper, and I'm telling you, you'll thank me. And if you really want to go snazzy and you want to do it for a bunch of people, go and buy some fresh herbs. You know, the Garfunkel, Simon and Garfunkel classic, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Chop them up and throw it in. People will think you did it from scratch, and you'll be like, yeah, it's an old native family recipe.
Yeah. That's good. Make me salivate here. Oh, God. I love bison. Now, bison is very good, and I encourage people to search it out. See where locally, how about that? Locally, not a big grocery store or something, where you can actually buy bison, and you'll be surprised. There's probably some, pretty reasonably within your area, unless you live in some big metropolitan like we're over in Europe. Europeans, sorry about that.
I think I know what Satan Claus is going to get Phoenix for Christ Mass.
Yeah, send the whole clean it. Anyway, going back before we went to the break, case against Santilli. I was talking about Pete Santilli. We were talking about the entire horrible thing that happened up there. And again, thanks to lucky little boy Finicum. What a tragedy. But Pete Santilli was, an internet radio blogger guy, and he was covering all kinds of things. Kind of controversial, he's very outspoken on a lot of stuff. But I was watching this entire thing that happened as much as I could in live feeds, and I actually witnessed by live feed Pete Santilli being arrested. I saw it. I saw this guy arrested. Now, just for clarity for everyone, this guy was not on the federal land. He did not join them. He was in a motel room. He was not armed. This man and his wife, and I think they took their dog too, didn't have any weapons with him. He was totally unarmed. And all he was doing was putting out information. He was live streaming. He was talking to people. He was trying to get the truth out. And he exposed some pretty damning things with the local government and the Bureau of Land Management. I mean, extremely damning things. And he was arrested. And dig this, he's still in jail. I'm going to read something right now from March 2nd of 2016. It says Internet radio host Pete Santilli quickly became a familiar face for those following the armed occupation of the Mahler National Wildlife Refuge. He became known for being an on-the-ground source for live video as well as strong and sometimes even offensive statements. Yeah, that's what he did. And here's one of his quotes. This is like classic Pete Santilli. He said, "I dare you, you government freaking Nazi pukes. I dare you to continue to spread lies, fear, and intimidation in the threats," unquote. He said during a mid-January show broadcast from Haney County. Now, says since then, federal prosecutors in Oregon and Nevada have brought felony charges against Santilli, who says he's a journalist. So far, much of the prosecution's case centers around things he said, raising questions about the First Amendment and power of speech. Now, I saw this guy arrested. When he was arrested, he was at the sheriff's thing because LaBoy Finnegan had been killed, and there was rumors that he had been murdered. No one really knew. And Pete Santilli was trying to talk to the police about a peaceful end to the standoff that was going on. And they said, "Come over here. We'll talk to you more about it." I was watching this live. They said, "Come over here." And they're like, led him away. They said, "We want to talk to you over here." And he goes, "Oh, okay." And they said, "You're under arrest." He said, "For what?" And they read him his rights. I saw this. The guy didn't do anything. He didn't attack anybody. He didn't have any weapons. He didn't occupy any federal lands. They arrested this guy because he was telling the truth. And he was out there on the internet and putting his broadcast out. And guess what, people? The man is still in prison. He went to prison, and he was in solitary confinement. I hear there was some abuse, there was some different things, and the judges did some pretty crazy things to this guy and others who were arrested. The man is still in prison, people. He didn't do anything. He didn't attack anyone. He didn't take over. He didn't do anything. He was just like telling the truth, or the truth as he saw it. He was broadcasting it. This man is still in federal custody, and he's still, they tried to get him life in prison, and all he did was talk. That's it. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because of what you said, NeSe, about at the pipeline thing, where they were trying to get people arrested. Yeah, this is what happens when people stand up on, "I'll go to jail." Dude, this isn't the 70s. These aren't the 80s. When you stand up for a cause, you give a little fine and you go out. You stand up for a cause now, and you're in prison for a long time. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, Trump's in charge now." Really? How come Pete Santilli, who did nothing, is not out of jail, and he's still facing life in prison?
Yeah, the atrocities can easily be numbered and brought up, and it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning of the show. How do we go through these cycles and not get caught up in?
Ney Sey, you there? Oh, I think we lost Ney Sey. Hold on 1 second. Let me get him back. I think he dropped off the line here. Something happened. He probably hit a button or something. Let's see if we can get him back. Hello, Ney Sey, are you there? Ney Sey, are you there? Perhaps we have him now. Yo, Ney Sey. He seems to be there, but he's not responding. What do you think it is? I'm thinking the authorities went in and got him. Oh yeah, they attacked the reservation. It's like they're going for him, Wounded Knee style. Get Ney Sey. Stop that wheelchair guy. Stop him. We must stop his truth now. Hello. Oh, what's happening? We lost him again. Bring him in. Oh my gosh. Ney Sey, what'd you do? He must have hit a button or something, did something. Here we go. Boom. Let me bring him back in. One more time. Trying to bring him back into the show here. Ney Sey, are you there? Ney Sey, are you there? Yeah, maybe I can bring him in. A little bit too much truth going on here. Yo, Ney Sey, bro, are you there? I see him. I see his icon here on Skype over here at the TFR control room, but I can't hear him. He's gone. Maybe he's trying to talk to us in sign language or something. No, he wouldn't do that. He's blind. He's not deaf. Oh, man. I'll try one more time to get Ney Sey back, and if I can't, then I can't. And what happened here? Okay, I'm trying one more time to get him back. Don't know if I can. Yeah, how about that? Maybe he'll come back in. Anyway, talking about all this, I don't think we get Ney Sey back. Don't know what happened there to Rez. You think he was overrun? You think it was overtaken by government troops? Seriously doubt it. But, this whole energetic that we're talking about, life, death, changes, I won't back down. I won't back down. Like Tom Petty said, I won't back down, no matter what. I mean, even in the case, program doesn't work, boom, Ney Sey can't come on. Big deal. We won't back down. We're talking about, are you there?
I am back. I apologize. Unbeknownst to me, my power strip was off from earlier today. And so as I plugged in my device, it lost its charge. And so I'm like, I wasn't saying anything that important. What did I do this time?
I wonder.
So I apologize.
That's okay. I was wondering what happened. What's going on? I tried to get you back in a few times, but very cool. So you are back.
Yeah, and trying to remember what I was last talking about was just basically, as we've talked about before, trying to find yourself without fear within love.
Exactly. But, there is a battle going on. There's a fight going on. There's a battle going on. The things we're talking about with Pete Santilli, LeBoy Pfennigum, these things are real. And they don't change. The one thing I said before you got dropped, I said, Pete Santilli didn't do anything. He did not have any firearms. He was not on any federal do anything. And he's still in prison, dude, after all this time. And we have a new president. Yay, Donald Trump's president. And Pete Santilli is still in prison doing nothing.
Well, yeah, and then we could easily bring up Leonard Peltier. But, it's unfortunately, these things are going to occur because if you look in his story, they've been occurring since the beginning. And yes, there's power in prayer, there's positive thinking and stuff, but there were unfortunately Jews that were in the concentration camps that were praying and asking for help and stuff. And even in the Bible, it says that, God helps those that help themselves, so we need to find that motivation to be positive in the least, And if you're going to do, I think we were a couple shows ago, we were talking about if you're going to be neutral and do nothing, then be neutral and do nothing. Just try with your hardest not to fall into the fear, into the despair. There's light there. And even in the center of a magnet, which everything is considered field, in the center of a magnet, in that neutrality, you can find light.
You know what? One thing I want to say, doing nothing is doing something. And the thing is, though, what's your energetic from doing nothing? Perceived doing nothing. Let me say perceived doing nothing. By taking no action on a perceived physical level. The vibration that you put forward must be positive, because even if you're like, oh, I'm not going to get involved, how you are thinking energetically reacts with everything and influences the outcome. I will guarantee you that. They say only 3% of the people in the United States, colonies before it was United States, the 3%, that's where the 3%ers come from, actually supported a fighting revolution against the British. That stood up, only 3%. The rest were like, borderline, like we're not going to get involved. But I will guarantee you, Ney Sey, at that other percentage, the other 97%, a majority of those hoped in their hearts for the best for the 3%, because that's the only way the 3% could have had an energetic and positive physical outcome over the British, was because a majority of the population actually reverberated, even from their non-stance, they reverberated their hope of independence.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of indifferent on it, because I can only make my speculations and from the experiences that I've had, with intent and with, just a prime example is cloud busting. I used to do cloud busting all the time, and it's an incredible thing when you do it. And if you do it enough, you can get really proficient at it, and you can literally cloud bust, burn holes right through it. And as an example,
one second, people talk about cloud bursting. Were you doing this just primarily and solely energetic, or using organic devices, the so-called cloud buster type devices?
Well, no, there's basically you just focus on a cloud that's in the sky, and then you, with your intent and with your thought, you imagine that cloud dissipating, or you imagine splitting a cloud in half, and it's an incredible thing. And I say, try it. Don't give up. After 5-10 minutes. Because if you're going to go with it with the positive intent that's what you're going to do. Because I'll tell you one experience that I had at that outdoor festival I talk about, that they have this one event that's called Project Earth, and I think we talked about it. But at Project Earth, it's very family orientated, and the clouds were starting to surround us. And I called a bunch of children, and I said, children, and I explained to them about cloud busting. And I told them, and I said, okay, let's do it on the count of 3. And we did it. And all of these kids, and of course I can't see them, But all of a sudden, all of these kids did like the whole like Spider-Man shooting their web thing where they all like raised their hands to like project the force. And all of a sudden you could hear adults around going like, oh my God, and like, wow, and like, look at that, because it literally happened.
Of course. You know what that is? That's the power of children. And children can do that because they don't know they can't do that, because they haven't got to that point of negativity that's been built up into them to know otherwise. And that's why there's so many writings about God calling us his children, the children of God. We must be like children. We must be innocent. We must know that we can do anything and not be influenced by the negativity that we all grow up in. Anything, and people they have dreams, they have visions. I can do this, I can do that. And how many times do adults say, oh, no, that's not true. That's not the way it works. You have to do this and you have to do that. And that's only dreams, and children lose that energetic. But we are all born with it, and we all have that ability, like Ney Sey was saying, with the children, and the adults were amazed. And the kids did that because you told them they could do that. Ney Sey, you said, do this and it'll work. And they're like, wow, okay, let's do it. And they did it.
Yeah, it was definitely an experience to remember. And I can't confirm nor deny that I claim to be a child acting like an adult, because I would rather be that than an adult acting like a child.
A child acting like an adult other than an adult acting like a child. So true. It's the childlike nature, the wonder, knowing, that we as children can do things. And we are. And see, that's the thing, constantly learning, constantly growing. That's how you remain a child. You can literally be 90 years old and still be childlike in your heart, because you're constantly looking, you're constantly learning and accepting these things, and not, falling under the spell of those around you who tell you can't do that. That's not the way it works.
Yeah, well, it is unfortunate with what we've discussed earlier with Mockingbird and the media and stuff to easily find the despair, find the dark. So, just find, and it's so easy to say, and we say it, we say it a lot, try to escape the fear. Excuse me, and embrace that love, because I'm hoping, and I have enough faith that all of you out there, at one point or another, have felt love and experienced love and the overwhelming power that it brings. And I bring up cliches all the time. It is better to have loved and lost than not to love at all. And I fully, absolutely agree with this, because one moment of love can erase an hour of fear. But I just don't understand, why is it so easy to remember the times of fear than it is to remember the times of love? I'm sorry, the illusions.
The illusions. Okay. Yeah, we'll roll up on the end here. We'll be back on Thursday with Bob Gilpatrick of Boomers Forever Young, and Ney Sey is going to be joining us on that. And I tell you what, crazy stuff going on in the world. I will guarantee you this. I'm going to make a prediction right now, and Ney Sey, it's going to get even more intense. It's going to get even more crazy. And I've been saying this, that this is going to happen. This is part of the leveling. We're going to see this energetic building and building and building. And, again, I did an overlay here. A lot of people aren't talking about. We're talking about Hurricane Harvey. We're talking about Hurricane Irma. We're talking about Hurricane Maria. Right there. I'm talking about And those three things, massive devastation all through the islands, all through different states, massive loss of life. Let's throw on top of that, boom, what happened in Las Vegas. And don't forget, the other tragic murders we've had happen here in the United States. This is not going to let up, people. This is a battle between good and evil. It really is. And the archonic, demonic, evil forces want you to be afraid. They want you to think that bad things are going to happen to you, and that is not the case. You've got to stay positive. What do you think, Ney Sey?
Well, at any moment, you can decide when to throw in the towel or have your 0 point or say, this is my bottom. This is the worst it gets. And that is the moment that you can make the choice to climb out of your own despair. Because no matter what, depending on the perspective that you're willing to look at something with critical thinking, you're going to find the darkness and the light within it. And so you have the choice on what to focus on. And please try to find the love. And if you can't find it, give me a call or send me a message. I'll send you it. I got plenty of love to go around.
Indeed. And that's it, people. We're out of time, and we'll be back on Thursday. Find someone you love. Tell them that you love them. And say no to fear. That's it. We are out of here. Be back on Thursday. Good night. And God bless.
Toodles.